If given a chance to choose a suburb, I will be close to the ocean or waterways, but it's too expensive. On my last video, I shared my experience, what it's like living in Brisbane after moving from New Zealand. On this video, I asked two friends who also moved from New Zealand to Australia in the last 18 months or so and asked about their experience. Just a disclaimer, our experiences may be different, and I think that's okay, all right? So just whatever you'll hear today, take it with a grain of salt, and these are just, again, different experiences from different people, depending on where they are in their move. So the questions I ask, what do you like most about living in Australia? Do you have a preferred suburb and why? What was the most challenging part of the move for you? And why did you move from New Zealand to Australia? And was it worth it? So I got two friends to answer these questions. So one moved to Gold Coast and then the other one moved to Melbourne. And if you want to watch my full video about my own experience, I'll put the link above. So make sure to check that out. But again, these are all experiences from newbies like myself. If you have been living here in Australia for a long time, we would also want to hear about your experiences because definitely there's a lot of things that I am missing. If you were born in Australia, never moved into another country, I also want to hear about your perspective. So write that down in the comment section below. All right, so for the first friend, let's call her friend number one. So they're both nurses because I don't have friends outside of the healthcare system, apparently. So she said, if given the chance to choose a suburb, I will be close to the ocean or waterways, but it's too expensive. And I think that's true for suburbs in Gold Coast, and also if you're looking at Sunshine Coast, the rental property is really hot at the moment. So that's the same as well for Brisbane City Council. I love the winter in Gold Coast. So, for your reference, she was living in Christchurch. So, the winter in Gold Coast would have been much milder compared to Christchurch, much more tolerable. And then some things for her most challenging part of her move. I still miss New Zealand. They say there is work-life balance here in Australia, but I felt I had more of that in New Zealand. For someone working 8 till 5 o'clock, the traffic here is bad, takes so much of your time on a daily basis. So I guess that's another consideration for you if you are driving or if you are going to catch the local public transport, take the traffic into consideration. So sometimes they'll advertise a property as say 20 kilometers from CBD or like 30 kilometers from CBD. Just know that the traffic is a lot more challenging here compared to New Zealand. But again, this is based for my perspective as well, living in Rotorua, which is like a smaller area, and then moving to Brisbane. And I guess for her living in Christchurch versus Gold Coast, the traffic is much worse in Australia. Um, and then in terms of food and coffee, she feels like New Zealand has it better. However, she has not explored much of Gold Coast, so cannot say conclusively. Challenging part of the move is being away from my comfort zone, my second home, my work family. However, my relatives are living in Gold Coast, so it's closer to home technically. And it's all worth it because my child is growing up with his cousins. So, again, challenges for her commuting, humid weather on the first summer, culture and attitude of people in Queensland, workplace. She feels like New Zealand has a better work-life balance. Although in terms of options for, I guess this is more like shopping or groceries, you have limited options in New Zealand compared to Australia. So that's a quick snapshot. Not sure if anyone can relate to that, but I thought I'll share that. Now, on to another friend. Friend number two is, dami kong letters na parang Dear Ate Charo. This next one is from someone from Melbourne. So he is also a registered nurse. So moved from Rotorua to Melbourne. I think in the last 18 months or so. So they both have a small family. and younger kids under 6 years old. So for him, I like the options available here in Melbourne, from shopping to available schools to work opportunities. And if you have younger kids, just know that, say for example, if you have under years old children and you need kindy or daycare for that, just know that sometimes there's a waiting list. You definitely have more options because in terms of the number of facilities, there's definitely more here. But even with that, just know that there's still a waiting list, especially if you have preferred date, as in preferred day of the week, and then hours as well. So just know that asterisk there. And I have created 2 videos around childcare for kids under 5 years old. So have a look if you haven't watched that yet. Preferred suburb is Geelong because it's laid back. So let's go back to my little map. Melbourne, which is in Victoria, but he said he really likes going to Geelong only because I think he works there occasionally, or his wife works there occasionally. So it's about like an hour drive from Geelong to Melbourne. And I do know they have another airport closer to Geelong as well. It's an international airport as well. Just can't remember it from the top of my head. But yeah, so Geelong, I've heard a lot of good things about Geelong, but again, same thing around rental property. It is getting more expensive compared to pre-COVID levels. But if it's a place that you'd like to explore, I've heard good things about it, about the weather. Yeah. So I guess just putting it out there if you haven't heard of it yet, or if you are exploring it. So his preferred area would be Geelong because it's more laid back. Most challenging is getting used to the new community and building new networks. Starting from scratch is never easy. And I think if you are an immigrant and you have moved around a bit, you would understand this more, from an outsider looking in. They feel like, oh, you're just jumping from one country to another, or how easy it is, or you're just like doing whatever. But if you are a person in the middle of the move, there's a lot at stake when you're moving. That it's not just a decision that you make overnight, and there are consequences that you are living because of those decisions. So I guess it's just more of acknowledging that it will take some time, getting to know your community again, and you're building your network at work and outside of work. He moved to Melbourne for greater opportunities for his family. And I guess for him, more around pros and cost. Pros, living cost and rent is cheaper compared to New Zealand. And again, we're not disregarding inflation. This is all, well, for some reason I want my pen because I want to scribble on something. This is all acknowledging that there is inflation rate, that the cost of groceries have increased, rental property prices have increased. But I think for his perspective, the cost of rent and living in Melbourne is still cheaper compared to when he was living in New Zealand. I have made a comparison video as well of like common groceries, New Zealand versus Australia. I used Countdown or Woolworths as a point of reference for your comparison as well. But in that video, I did say that if you are looking for cheaper options, definitely there's more options outside of Woolies. Yeah, just a matter of researching where they are and looking for it. Lots of options, especially with sports and recreational activities and learning. And I think I would add into it, I guess it's more to do with the accessibility of it. You don't have to drive as far. And then in terms of working, they have electronic health record. Not sure how to pronounce this. It's the Cerner, CERNER, and computerized systems at work. Now, this one has a caveat, asterisk. Put an asterisk on this. Obviously, this is his experience working in a public hospital. I think this is He's working in public hospital. However, it's not true for all hospitals in Australia. There are private hospitals, especially in Queensland, which relies on printed files. So yeah, but I think for him, he says that he finds it a lot easier because in his workplace they use electronic health record. They have computerized system at work. Food and cafe culture is better for him in Melbourne. So again, see how there's different perspectives. So the first friend said she prefers the coffee culture and food options in New Zealand, but the second friend says he prefers the options in Australia because again they're coming from a different place. So one was from Christchurch, the other one was from Rotorua, and they moved to a different place. One to Gold Coast, and one to Melbourne. So I see how you cannot make generalization of everyone's experiences. Um, in Melbourne, apparently, there's a lot of Filipino stores and restaurants, and I find that's the same in Brisbane. I've talked about a lot about that. Lots of beaches and hiking, picnic spots for families, which is very good. Cons, vehicle purchase price and rego is more expensive. I would say the same is true in Brisbane. Yes. We don't have warrant of fitness tests as such. However, if you are buying a car, yeah, registration is more expensive. Yeah, vehicle purchase is more expensive. I would agree on this one. There is lots of speed cameras. He got fined as well. I think just recently I think he was driving 110 kilometers or 10 kilometer over the speed limit, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that's true. Even in Queensland, we have a lot of cameras as well. More travel time. I think this is especially true. The distance, the time you spend on the road, unless of course your workplace is just like 5 minutes walk from your home, then that's easy and convenient. But yeah, I find that personally I also have to drive more. So that's the true for friend number one. And friend number two, strict and competitive work culture. I think also because he is working in, if I'm not mistaken, a tertiary hospital in Melbourne. So it's more specialized in his current area. So he has moved from a smaller hospital to a larger hospital. So I would imagine it would be a strict and competitive work culture. There are area in Melbourne with higher crime rates. It's something that you'll have to look up and I guess consider when choosing where to rent or buy a property as well. But there's security measures around that as with any other place. So those are the experience of friend one and friend two. And I think for my personal experience, I would definitely agree. If you want to support the channel, then please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell so you'll know when I upload new videos just like this one. Then, agree that purchasing a car, registration, it's more expensive in Australia. They are definitely stricter in terms of speed cameras. They have more options here. Travel time, yes, that's something I think that's the first one that I had to accept. So I had a friend who moved from Tauranga to Geelong, and then she said for herself, when she was planning the move for her family and two kids, she had to sit down and like reflect that my travel time will be different because when she was living in Tauranga, it's just like 10 minutes drive one way, or not even like 14 minutes return, 14 minutes return, right? But in Geelong, it's totally different because of where they managed to buy a house. And same thing goes for us here now. It takes, if I'm not going to drop off my daughter, it takes about 20-25 minutes one way. If I'm going to drop my daughter off to Kendi, it takes like half an hour one way. And every time I say one way or 30 minutes drive, no one cares, no one empathizes with me because technically it's like the average duration of drive. But yeah. I live in Rotorua before, and it's just like 15 minutes return. I've done everything that I need to do, drop off, pick up. It's just part of the things that I had to change and accept. Anyway, so that's that. What else? should I agree on? Coffee and food culture. I feel like we have a lot of options here in Brisbane. I wouldn't say I'm like a coffee connoisseur, but definitely like the local cafes. I do enjoy Blue Testament. If you're ever in the North area, Blue Testament is good. I told you so cafe is also good. Tasty Kitchen down Maramba Downs is really good. Speaking of the other cafes, Coffee Club is not too bad. Yeah, that's actually good. And they're super friendly as well. So we also have Coffee Club in New Zealand. So if you're like, I guess, wanting something familiar right off the bat, you might want to go there. There are Starbucks here as well. However, it's not as popular, I guess, compared to the Philippines. I find that it's a lot sweeter. It's like more sugary, but each to our own. It's there if you want it, but locally, most most Australians prefer their going to their local coffee shops. There's heaps of options to choose from, and I guess what you can summarize is, especially because I feel like I kind of belong in this group of people moving as well. So I think they're around 18 months to 2 years, and I'm kind of the same. It'll be 3 years in March, but still kind of that relatively new, moving in, settling in. And I found that this is similar to people I have interviewed in the past, nurses who moved from a different country to New Zealand. And then I would ask them questions. If you're familiar with the channel, you would have seen the interviews. They are in Tagalog. I have put a subtitle on some of them, but not all of them because, again, life happens. But what I found interviewing them is, depending on where they are in their journey, you can't really say that they are 100% all in this move to New Zealand. And New Zealand is a beautiful country, right? But even then, they would still pick and choose, like certain things are better from the country they were from, and then there's certain things, of course, the opportunity which were better in New Zealand. And I guess that's the same here for us as well, moving from New Zealand to Australia. That we're in a state where we haven't really explored it as much. So I think in terms of accessibility to activities, a part of me wants to say New Zealand, but I'm not sure if it's just because of nostalgia or because we were living in Rotorua, right? So everything is accessible to us, like the tourist. It's a tourist destination. Like the activities is there if you want it. But now that I am in like a little over 2 year timeline and having a little bit of opportunity exploring the peninsula, I am enjoying, I guess, where we are located because we're close to the ocean. There's um, Redcliffe, there's Clontarf, there's Margate, um, and and there's Woody Point as well. And these are like gorgeous spots. And each suburb they have like a little park for kids. So I feel like I'm not missing out in terms of the environment itself. And I want to share a video, but I'm not sure if I can edit it through in this clip. But I was whenever I like go to work, there's like random birds and parrots, and it's just it looks like a sanctuary, but not really. So I do enjoy that. Oh, that's another thing that I want to include in this video. About wildlife and the weather, because I get questions a lot. Is it really hot in Australia? Do you have snakes? Have you seen snakes, spiders, koalas, kangaroos? And then what about racism? So I guess and is the salary really better in Australia? So those are the top 4 things that the themes that keeps on repeating. Weather I have addressed in my other video. The first summer will always be challenging, I feel like, because you are adjusting, especially if you're coming from the South Island where you're used to the cold. So just know that you will adjust, but I feel like you will get through it. Especially, like I said, for me as a registered nurse, I don't really work outdoors. I work indoors. There's AC, there's heater if I need it. Occasionally, it will get really cold, so I do have long sleeves or jackets. but like I said, overall, it's manageable.
Now, about our wildlife encounters in Australia, we've been living here for 2 years and 4 months, and I've only seen one koala across the road. This happened early in the morning during my commute to work from Mount Gravatt, and I don't actively search for creepy crawlies, but I did see a tree snake once when my friend and I were visiting a state school. Interestingly, our local community Facebook page would occasionally feature photos of snake sightings. These posts are usually met with calm responses, advising that the snakes are not venomous or harmful, or suggesting to contact a local snake catcher. I haven't gone out of my way to search for snakes, spiders, koalas, or kangaroos, and in our day to day living, I haven't encountered them as some friends initially feared we would when I told them about the move. We are still obviously cautious when we're out and about compared to when we were living in New Zealand, but we haven't had any frightening encounters. The only time when I had the opportunity to be up close to a koala and a snake was during an event at my daughter's kindy.
If you enjoyed watching my video, then share it. Share it to your friends or watch my next one, this one, which YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. As always, I wish you all the best with your journey and I hope you will be blessed. I'll see you soon. Bye.